Hello, everyone. This is Paulo Pires, one of your classmates, and I'm here to present my project and share it with you all. It's an addendum to the paper I submitted for the course, and I chose to support a restaurant development group that I think could benefit from a comprehensive training program that would lead their company's mission statement and corporate initiatives in the right direction, provided they offer the proper training channels to get to the common goalpost. So my theme is, excuse me, training employees on organizational learning and building a culture of competency. So I would like to share with you some of the ideas that I have designed to get to moving in the right direction. So the introduction to organizational learning, and so you may ask yourself, what is the definition of organizational learning? Well, organizational learning is the process of creating, retaining, and transferring knowledge within an organization. An organization improves over time as it gains experience. The importance in today's dynamic workforce, overview of key components, which include culture, leadership, and structure, and always engaging the audience. So the importance of cultural competency. One always asks, what is the definition of cultural competency? What does it mean, and why is it so important? The definition of cultural competency is a set of congruent behaviors, attitudes, and policies that can together in a system, agency, or profession enable that system, agency, or profession to work effectively in a cross-cultural situation. So basically, people from various backgrounds who come together as one in a unit at different agencies, whether it's in the school system, in the corporate sector, wherever it is, that we all can work together and appreciate one's cultural background differences that may be different or similar to our own. So some of the benefits of this include inclusion, innovation, and improvised communication. There's a role in enhancing organizational learning. The reference that I was able to find comes straight from the Office of Minority Health. The reference is listed on the slide. One of the key components that are very, very important in training in my research is that the 4 frames of organizational learning. There's the structural frame, organizational design and process, the human resource frame, which includes employee development and engagement, the political frame, which are power dynamics and stakeholder interests, symbolic frame, which is organizational culture and meaning. Let's take a moment to think about them for a moment. When you think about political frame, think about the power dynamics in the office politics that often dominate the workplace and kind of put people in an awkward position, because most people are not into the office politics, but then you have your handful of those that are, who help stir the pot and make things difficult and complicated for others within an organization or in the education system. So then I was wanting to look at the leadership buy-in. I'm a firm believer, as a corporate trainer myself, that the leadership must buy in to all training and make sure that they're actively engaged and on some level, just to ensure that everyone is moving forward in the right direction and has the same set of values they believe in terms of the company's mission. A lot of the times, the top leaders don't feel like that their word really matters because they're already where they're at. But they'd be very surprised to learn how motivating and how inspiring it is for them to share how maybe they got through the journey to get where they are today, and what steps they had to take to get there, and who was involved and who motivated them, and what strategies that they have to use or methods to get to where they are today. And how leaders can model learning behaviors. A lot of corporations today have X, Y, and Z X, Y, and Z, you know, goals and have pathways to success, but they don't live them and they don't breathe them and they don't share them. So it almost puts people in an awkward space where how will they learn to get to those places if they don't have the proper training or the tool set to get them where they need to go? So, what are the strategies for gaining leadership commitment? We talk a lot about mental framing and learning when we talk about training. Definition of mental framing. The definition of mental framing is also known as the framing effect. It's a cognitive bias that occurs when people and their decisions are influenced by how much information is presented rather than the information itself. Think about that for a moment. How much time is wasted on what people think versus what the information is that's needed to or can be provided to make a situation easier to understand. The impact on employees' perception and engagement. If somebody's not interested, they're not going to continue going forward with whatever the initiatives are. They're going to develop their own personality. They're going to make sure that they don't participate in anything if it doesn't benefit them. A lot of them have no motivation because there's no one there to step in and say, hey, if you follow this method or if you go through this pathway or this journey, this is the pathway to elevation. This is how we can upskill you. This is how we can bring you to the next level. But that whole glass ceiling thing is a real thing. And how do you shatter it? And how do you get past it? You know, there's people who work hard for agencies and corporations for many years, 10, 15, 20 years. And then you have a young person coming in who gets hired out of college or has no experience and they're replacing you. Well, what makes them different? How did they get there and you didn't get there? What step did you miss in the process? And then the techniques for effective mental framing in training. So the reference for the mental framing comes from the reading that we did with Versky and Kahneman. The reference is listed on the slide. We talk about cultural building blocks. They're the key elements of a learning culture. They foster trust and psychological safety. If someone doesn't feel comfortable or confident in an environment, then they're not going to thrive as well as they would if they did feel comfortable and or confident in that same learning space. Sometimes people have ideas that they like to share, but then they're fearful that if they do and it doesn't fall in the favor of the opposition, that they could find themselves in a tough space. So a lot of people walk around frustrated, wanting to be part of change, but feel as if they mention some of the things that could benefit the corporation, the people who are listening may not be on board, and it could cause an uncomfortable or an awkward situation. So there's a continuous improvement mindset and the collaboration and knowledge sharing. That's the goal, is to keep pressing down and making sure that everybody has the same opportunity. If there's shared knowledge and access for everyone, could you just imagine how big a company would flourish and how much benefit it would do in productivity and how happy, for the most part, the employees would be if they have the opportunity? By integrating cultural competency into training, you put everyone in give everyone the same opportunity to grow instead of stereotyping or having personal preferences or individual prejudices, for lack of a better term. It puts everyone and gives them a good opportunity to grow and learn like everyone should. By utilizing the 4 frames to structure training content and provide examples for each training activity. So I have really thought deeply about what would work best and how to design this program for the restaurant development group. And one of the most important things that I liked in a course that we took was the formal design when we had learned about ADDIE. I use ADDIE a lot in my work, and I think that it's very beneficial. especially in the training world. I know some educators use it as well, but I don't know if, how effective it is for them, or if they think that it's not a good method and a good model. But for me, I think it really speaks loudly to specializing a training program instead of making them general, because they're not always the same and they may not always work and the outcomes are different. There's a different audience, there's different content, there's a bunch of variables that play in part of how successful a training program can be. So, steps to create an effective training program: there's a needs assessment. Like I said, you have to assess the situation because you don't know what you're going to train. How are you developing a program if you don't know what's needed? You have a curriculum design. How will you design that program if you don't know what is the need for that program? And then how will you implement that program if you have no strategies? You must have a strategy so that you can meet the target audience and get the end result achieved without having any challenges. And then the evaluation feedback. That's very important, because how do you perfect your program and make it successful if you're not providing the right channels for feedback or properly evaluating a program the way that it should be? So for an example, for the training module, I put, the title would be Building a Learning Organization. The objectives would be to increase awareness of cultural competency, develop skills across the 4 frames, and then include workshops that involve role-playing and group discussions. You always want to make sure that your audience is involved and engaged, because after all, they're the ones who are the subjects, who are learning. Measuring success, we have looked for the key performance indicators, which are KPIs, for training effectiveness. And so some key performance indicator examples that I think are good would be: what's your training attendance rate? What's your course completion rate? What's your employee engagement rate or your knowledge retention rate? Those are key performance indicators to properly assess training effectiveness and to be sure that you're on target to meet the goalpost. Importance of feedback and continuous improvement is going to get your training program on where it should be, and it will help you grow it from where it was prior to and bring it to the next level. And then you want to look for tools for measuring the impact, like what are the metrics? Look for surveys, assessments. You want people's opinions, because if you're not reaching them, then you're probably not going to reach others either. And it also helps the trainer and the company and whoever's sponsoring, whether it's human resources or an outside vendor, what they need to do to make it happen. And then the final thing is just to recap the importance of organizational learning and how it can really play a big part in the structure and function of an organization or in the education system. Call to action: invest in cultural competency and learning initiatives. Always make sure that it's being reviewed, because you don't want to have the same boring curriculum all the time. You want to add some zest and zeal and stay on top of what's current. And then if you have any questions and discussion, I'm looking forward to all your feedback. I'm thankful for all of you. We've channeled through this course pretty easy. It was really a nice experience, and so I'm looking forward to your feedback. Thank you so much.